This is a walkthrough of my daughter and my aquaponics systems that we have been working on for the past few months. It is within the home's garden area. There are two aquaponics systems, Aqua-1 and Aqua-2. Aqua-2 is quite a bit bigger, but Aqua-1 was successful first, and both represent successful aquaponics systems. Aqua-1 does not have a significant number of fish at this time. Aqua-2 is building up in fish as the weeks go by. This is a snapshot of the systems at about 3 months in, and we implemented hundreds of iterations, especially on Aqua-2. Aqua-2 is a feat of engineering, or seriously over-engineered, depending on who you ask. The first verbal walkthrough is just giving you a feel of the different parts of the systems. We are in the garden walking through the tent, and Aqua-2 that's behind this large wall. The wall is actually an outdoor fireplace. Aqua-1 is in front of the wall and gets quite a bit more sun. So that's one advantage it has over Aqua-2. The other main advantage is that it's simple. It's the core of aquaponics, where there's a planter at the top that has plants, and there's a fish tank at the bottom that is pumping water up into the top of flooding and draining, where the bacteria convert the ammonia into nitrates that feed the plants. So you just need to feed the fish for them to produce ammonia. Aqua-1 is powered by a solar array that is sitting up on top of the house, where the wires are coming down from the roof and into a battery that can drive the pump. Aqua-1 and Aqua-2 both leverage this station for doing chemical testing on the water to look for ammonia levels and nitrate levels. Aqua-2 is behind the fireplace, and so depending on how you try to get to it, it is a little difficult. The rear entrance goes under a tree around the fireplace and provides access to the electronics that are all in this box, the planter number 2, and planter number 1. So, although it's the rear entrance, it is the most direct entrance. The front entrance goes into the front of the tent with a welcome mat and gives direct access to the fish tanks first, and then the planters are in the back. Aqua-2 has 2 planters and 2 fish tanks, but fish tank number 1 and planter number 1 can exist on their own, where tank number 2 and planter number 2 are hooked in to tank number 1 and planter number 1 in a few different ways. Basically, the piping hooks the system together. Tank number 2 is the more planted of the fish tanks and has surface plants and some growing from the bottom. Tank number 1 does not have any plants in it and is just a standard fish tank. Planter number 1 is the first one and has peas, peppers, and a couple more subplanters that you can put more things in. Planter number 2 has shiso and some other plants in it. In some sense, the whole system is 2 levels: the planter level and then the fish tank level. So water is going up to the 2 tanks, planters, and then coming down into the fish tanks. The 2 fish tanks are connected with pipes to enable the fish to travel between them, and also pipes that enable fresh water, or at least processed water, to cycle through the complete tank area back to the pump that is pushing them up into the planters. The fish can travel in two directions because there are two pipes, and although there is a water current, they could choose to go along with the current either direction, as well as swim against it. The fish tanks, are only a fraction of the total number of tanks in the system, and the electronics are all, again, almost all in this box. With the solar array that you saw at the very beginning powering the system, and the electronics making sure the main pump is running. There are timers available, but none of them are currently being used. The whole system runs with the rhythm of the flood and drain aspects, along with some sensors that hook into, in this particular case, what's called the gravity tank, that looks for water buildup in it, and when it does, it drives that water through a filter that doesn't do chemical filtering but does other kinds, and then pushes it all the way to the far side of the tank and aerates it over there. It could potentially go to a third tank as well, though we don't have a test for that. This extra force is what enables this water to make it all the way here at that kind of pressure to be able to aerate it. And this is one of the longest traversals that occurs in the system relative to the pump pushing the water up into the planters. The pure gravity flood and drain aspects also aerates, but only can aerate into tank number 1, and tank number 2 gets the water as well, so the water is cycling the whole system, but is not getting as aerated and as cleaned as if it goes through the gravity tank. The pure gravity water making it to tank number 2 and coming out the clear pipe. A number of the pipes are clear, so it's easier to see what the water is doing. Others are colored just for aesthetic reasons, and the rest are just plain white PVC, especially connecting the tanks together. There are fish in the tank. There are not a lot of them, so they can hide very easily. But these are 2 skeleton butterfly koi that are a set of koi that have been added relatively recently. There have been koi losses, and a raccoon took one of the koi away, which is why these tanks have bird netting or anti-raccoon netting on top of it. There are also crayfish in the tanks, and the raccoon got one of those, but it apparently did not want to eat it and left it behind. So it is back in the tank. There are wave generators, now 2 of them. This video has 1 that are making sure the water cycles between the 2 tanks, and the koi especially seem to enjoy moving water versus pure pond water. The central white area is actually a critical part of the system of hooking the 2 planters together and dispersing it out. That's what enables the planters to flood and drain together, even though there's only 1 siphon that's in planter number 1. But this water interchange system keeps the 2 planters at about the same level of water. And the traversal of the water is several inches from the drain point to the flood point. So both tanks are doing this cyclical model. Pure gravity water to aerate into tank number 1 and reach tank number 2 is partially because of these large 1.5-inch PVC pipes that you can see in the background. These are driving the blue pipe you can see on the right, as well as that clear pipe that you saw earlier. And the blue pipe is a spray bar and aerates the water. Another aspect to this whole system is that the pump is not down powered. It is always pumping the same amount of water and has as little resistance as possible to reach the top, which can mean that the amount of water it's producing is beyond what the siphon can handle. So the pipe that's white and is facing us is actually offloading some of the water from the flood drain cycle continuously. So it is cycling, and part of it's cycling into the gravity tank and part of it's cycling into tank number 1. But it's not part of the flood drain cycle. And that way the pump could either be made a little less powerful and then the water turned down, or it can be made more powerful and the water turned up. Those planters are fully functional. The left is volcanic